Today's story was written by Reddit user Carter Creations 061. We entered the new star system with frightening ferocity. Our 5 carrier crafts and 3 battle cruisers all popped out of warp travel on the edge of the system at the same time. Immediately upon our arrival, we received a message from the human mining colony on the 6th planet. They were curious as to why a small army had suddenly gathered at their doorstep. My species is a civilized one, so we announced our intentions clearly and honestly. We came to take over the mining colony. All of the infrastructure, as well as exclusive right to this star system, will be forfeited, and in exchange, we would treat the 14,000 or so humans living here as prisoners, which the Human Federation could come by and pay ransom for at their convenience. We told the humans about our media cannons and how, if they refused, we were willing to sacrifice the colony's surface for a quick and easy battle. Upon receipt, a human message came up requesting a video link. I directed my crew to accept, and suddenly there was an ugly, hairless primate on the screen in the main deck. "Greetings," said the human. "I am Professor Jackson. It is my understanding that you wish to conquer this star system. Is that correct?" "That's exactly right," I replied. The 50 or so sharp teeth in my round mouth clacked together to display our aggressive intent. "I understand," the human replied. "And are you working alone or under the orders of the Freyic Confederation?" I was surprised at the mention of my homeworld. Why did this human care about the internal politics of my species, while we were fast approaching this world? "My clan is a member of the Freyic Confederation," I replied, "but in this we are acting alone." "So the Freyics do not wish to declare war on all humans, is that correct?" "Yes, it is," I replied. "My clan leaders had tried to convince the Federation to do such a thing. We know that the humans are currently weak while being at war with the HFY civilization. Sadly, the rest of my species is not as optimistic as we are. Now, let's talk about the terms of your surrender." "Please allow me a moment," the professor said, and the screen went black. I had to quickly gain my composure so that my crew didn't sense my shock and outrage. We were now only 3 hours away from the mining colony. We had offered the humans a way out of conflict, and they had hung up on me. Another video request came in 30 minutes later. "Greetings again. It was the same human scum. Sorry about the short end of the call. I had to discuss things with the Federation." "I will not tolerate such uncivilized action again. We are doing you all a favor by offering surrender. We could just come and launch a rock at your world." "My hope is," the human said, "to actually convince you to avoid conflict entirely." Was this human stupid? We had already given them the surrender conditions. Freyics are the most feared species in this arm of the galaxy. The oldest civilizations pay us tribute for our protection. "This star is very hostile to life," the human said. "It has cost us several trillion units to build an artificial magnetosphere. It is my understanding that the Freyic skin is even more prone to cancerous growths than my own. I do not think you all would actually benefit in the long term from taking this star system." "The magnet shield for the planet will not be affected by our weapons. We intend to launch a 3-kilometer rock into your surface. It will destroy all of the ground infrastructure, but the shielding will be safe." "I apologize for the miscommunication," the human replied smugly. "If you are able to get past the orbit line of the 7th planet, we will destroy the magnetic shield ourselves." I was surprised by the human's suicidal bluff. "Fine, send the shield crashing into your own planet. Even if you aren't lying, that is a cost we are willing to pay." "I see," the human said. "Well, then, we have no choice but to defend ourselves. As you already know, the Federation is already tied up in the war with the HFY. When we asked for military aid, they informed us that there was none available. So we have decided to declare our independence from the Human Federation. We are now a separate political body known as the Proxima Free Settlement. We have graciously told the Federation that your clan is acting independently in order to avoid an escalating interspecies conflict. We cannot promise that the Federation will not seek revenge for the Freyet Confederation sanctioning your actions. However, we request that you inform your species that what will occur over the next few hours is the actions of our government and not of all humankind. The video feed cut out again. This time I could not hide my emotions from my crew. My body turned just about every colour available to my physiology. Orange with anger, blue with outrage, green with ferocity. Eventually my skin and emotions settled on purple hysteria. These humans were clearly delirious. We had 8 vessels, all loaded with cannons capable of launching a planet-destroying meteor. I told my crew to continue our advance with haste. Once we crossed the 9th planet's orbit, we began to see the first physical signs of human life. They had outpost satellites around this orbit. I commanded some of my single-pilot craft to go and take control of these satellites. This was when the first sign of trouble came. Before the pilots even reached the satellites, they exploded in an array of radiated particles. We had scanned these machines. They did not have any weapons on board. My analysis concluded that they must have had nuclear reactors attached to them that the humans flooded. 56 pilots came back alive. Most had radiation poisoning that was going to require lifelong medications. I commanded my deck to cool the human colony. When the face appeared, I began to shout, "What you have done is a clear violation of the Orion Accords. The use of nuclear force has been banned for centuries. How dare you?" The human cut me off again. "The Proxima Free Settlement is not a signatory of the Orion Accords. In fact, we haven't signed any treaties. We've only been a government for about 45 minutes. It is my understanding that an unprovoked attack against a species already at war was a violation." "This will not stand," I replied. "Be prepared to have your whole world destroyed." I no longer cared about the infrastructure cost. I wanted to teach these humans a lesson on the might of my species. I was about to hang up when the human began speaking again. "Though I am under no legal obligation, I feel compelled to tell you that if you cross the orbit of the 8th planet, we will use an even stronger weapon. We call it the Icarus Protocol." I ended the link. I was not about to be threatened by these humans. Sure, they had some neat tricks, but we would be in range to launch our meteors long before they had any chance to strike us again. Orders went out for all single-pilot ships to remain in the carriers. I wanted them to stay behind the shields we had on board. 20 minutes later, we were on the edge of the 8 planets orbit. One of my staff actually suggested that we slow down so that we could analyze the space for potential threats. I nearly slapped him. Freyets do not have time for weakness. We crossed the invisible line, and I must admit I held my neck holes shut in anticipation for an attack. None immediately came though. We had called the humans' bluff. I got up and made an announcement to my main deck staff. "See, these humans are weak. They are trying to scare us into submission. We will advance upon their world and destroy it. Then we will take this star system for ourselves. I promise you all much glory and—" I stopped talking as the lights in my main deck went off. The holographic screen that had been presenting our approach disappeared, and in its place stood the large window showing only the stars. My crew is among the best in the galaxy. but even they lost composure at the suddenness of the darkness. After returning order on the deck, I began shouting commands at my crew. I needed reports, analysis, anything. All of the computers in the deck seemed to be off. The door to the main deck was closed tight as the sensors were also out. It took us nearly 10 minutes just to pry them open. Communication throughout the ship was out. Most of the lights were out, though some auxiliary power was starting to come back online. Even the emergency flashlights, totally separate from the ship's power grid, were not working. I rushed to my personal cabin. It was the best insulated from attacks both physical and energetic. I had a radio stored there that might not be completely fried. A red flashing light let me know my assumption was correct. I called over my second in command in one of the battleships. Kiorak, tell me, do you know what's going on? It seems that we have been hit by a large energetic projectile, she said. Your ship was hit first. It was like a solar flare. All the other craft seem to be as screwed as we are. I messaged the commander of each ship. They all gave me the same report. One of them had an advanced telescope that was working, and at my direction they pointed it at the human colony. They gave visual confirmation that the humans had broken up their magnet shield. The thing was now in several dozen pieces, all aligned to create a path for solar particles to be directed towards my formation. The humans had completely scrambled our electronics. Very few systems were online. My flagship thankfully had its life support system intact, but 4 of the others were not so lucky. We tried to transport as many soldiers from the dying vessels over as we could, but many Freyiks suffocated in the growing dark coldness. It took the Proxima Free Settlement 5 hours to send one of their vessels out to meet us. All the long-range comms had been shot, but we were able to offer a surrender when the enemy ship came close enough. The human captain insisted that I personally board their vessel so that I could message my clan using their comms and work out the conditions. We had thought the humans were a weak species, too focused on infrastructure to be prepared for a fight on 2 sides. I have now learned personally what humans are capable of.